Terminus, the Aeon of Finality, and the mysterious figure proposed to be the end of the universe. And as far as Honkai games go, the power of finality is always the strongest and signifies the end of the story. But I would be misleading you if I were to leave that description there, because with every ending comes a new beginning, and that is the true meaning of the finality. But what does this path mean to Honkai Star Rail? And more importantly, what is this time-traveling Aeon called Terminus? Well, thanks to a certain thrill-seeking mimetic entity, we have learned more about this being. And even though not much was said and it is anything but simple, I believe that I have a working understanding of what Terminus is and how they work. And through doing some research, I have possibly come across the inspiration behind the concept of this finality Aeon. Because this is Honkai Star Rail's Aeon of Finality explained. Okay, so at 3.8 we got some subtle hints at how Terminus works, and most importantly what this cat is that has appeared alongside the Stellar Run Hunters since day one. Turns out that this cat is not Elio and is in fact a messenger sent by Terminus, or rather Terminus themselves. Because as Dahlia tells us, at the end of time, Terminus splits themselves into a pack of cats and travels through time backwards until they reach the moment of the universe's birth, meaning that they, just like Fuli, have a way of projecting themselves backwards through time to help people stop what ended the universe. But instead of collecting memories and turning people into memo keepers, Terminus gives people prophecies of what the future is as they pass them by, and has the ability to continue as they pass to help people rewrite history directly as they pass them, because they go backwards through time, so our past is their future. So in reference to the whole Firefly situation, we got Terminus to give Firefly a different ending in that timeline in our past, because the presence of a cat denotes the presence of Terminus. But here is where things get complicated, confusing, and gives further credence to my Aeon war theory, where it's Team Origin versus Team Finality. One team of Aeons is trying to save the universe and the other team tries to end it. And what are the teams? Well, in that theory, I stated that Terminus was on Team Origin, where they are allied with Fuli, Mythos, Aha, Akavili, and Noose. And at the time, I didn't know how truly close Terminus was to Fuli, because both have ways of traveling to the past and both represent time itself, especially if you look at Emphorius as a microcosm of the cosmos. But this was just a tip of the iceberg, because there is one thing that Dahlia reveals about Terminus that sent me into an entirely new realm of thought. Because before dropping the Oppenheimer quote, Dahlia says that Terminus ascends into 1,000-armed divine form. And let me tell you, I hope you are ready for a crash course on Buddhism, because the remembrances of mimetic entities have dharmakayas, and the existence of a pure child of Anasarva is just a simple thing in comparison to what I have cooked up for you all today. Because it just so happens that Terminus and Fuli both find their inspirations in Buddhism, and it is absolutely insane. So let's get into this. Oh boy, where do we start? Alright, so first things first, let's get into pretty much the three major tiers of beings in the realm of Buddhism. Ordinary people, bodhisattvas, and Buddhas. Ordinary people are suffering in the samsara of death and rebirth due to their karmic debt. Remember, being free from this debt and purity is what Anasara means. Buddhas are those who have freed themselves from all karmic debt and reached enlightenment. They are the peak of all existence in Buddhism. What is a bodhisattva? Well, put simply, they are a middle ground between a Buddha and a person, or rather a Buddha that refuses to reach enlightenment and ascending to nirvana, and has instead preferred to stay behind to help humanity. So the whole process summed up is a person embarks on their journey, passes multiple spiritual trials involving ridding themselves of the three poisons, greed, hatred, and ignorance, and eventually reaches a state of Anasarva, which which is a major checkpoint, and then as they continue to progress, they reach the moment of enlightenment. And here is where they make a choice to either become a Buddha or a Bodhisattva. But don't get me wrong, Bodhisattvas can become Buddhas, they are just actively not doing it for benevolent reasons. They want to guide more people to where they are before attaining enlightenment for themselves. And in some cases, even helping everything in hell before ascending. They're that extreme. And it just so happens that Fuli and Terminus have heavy ties to two different Bodhisattvas. And I already thought Fuli was like this due to the giant lotus looking thing behind them, which is the most common depiction of a Buddha sitting on a lotus flower. But oh boy, did I not know how deep this goes, because Terminus having 1,000 arms is a direct reference to the most noteworthy Bodhisattva, Avalokiteshvara, or Guanyin in Chinese, which is easier for me, doing my best to pronounce these things here. Because this particular Bodhisattva is known for is, and I quote, a boundless commitment to alleviating the suffering of all sentient beings. And his compassionate gaze spans the cosmos as he guards and protects the world during pivotal transitions. And mind the pronouns, sometimes Bodhisattvas are referred to as male and sometimes female and sometimes genderless, so it is what it is. But just that description alone sounds like a description from Star Rail, doesn't it? But it gets better, because this particular Bodhisattva is most known for being in the 1,000-armed state. Now, they are depicted in multiple different poses and forms, as are all Bodhisattvas, but unless my sources are wrong, this is the form that Guanyin is known for being in. The exact form that Terminus is described as. But again, it gets even crazier, because at some point legend says that Guanyin's head once split from grief of realizing how many wicked beings needed to be saved, and Amitabha, or Amitofo, who I think is the most prominent Buddha, put them back together again. And trust me, we'll learn more about this Buddha later. So we have the 1,000-arm thing and the splitting into pieces aspect that connects Guanyin to Terminus. Oh, and they are also known as the Bodhisattva of Great Compassion, and an Aeon that deliberately travels backwards through time trying to help humanity survive annihilation. Well, it doesn't get more compassionate than that, does it? So let's move on to Fuli's Bodhisattva, Vajrapani, or Jinggangsho. Now, this particular ascended being is most known for another type of depiction, one that involves holding a lotus flower, the exact thing that appears behind Fuli. But here's where it gets crazy, because Jinggangsho is also well known for being central to Pure Land Buddhism. And if you take into account this one's other name, Mahastama Prapta, they have their own Pure Land. But what is this Pure Land? Surely it can't be similar to the Pure Land of Recollection, right? That would just be too much. Well, get this. The entire purpose of Pure Land Buddhism is to provide an alternate and easier route to escaping the samsara of death and rebirth. And instead of suffering through the arduous journey of attaining enlightenment, you can simply have faith, make a vow, and practice Nianfu, which translates to Recollection of the Buddha, by the way. So in other words, what is happening here is that just like Fuli, this Bodhisattva has a way of accepting people into the Pure Land and allowing them to escape their karma. Remember, Anasrava means purity. So having a pure land and purifying people with it makes them a master of Anasrava, Fuli's alias. Put simply, this being is making memo keepers out here with a pure land of recollection. Literally, Fuli. Hoyo is subtle as a brick. But I'm just gonna say this right now. You aren't ready for what I found next. Because you know your boy went even deeper, and I told you this was an iceberg. Because I told you before that in the Aeon War theory, Fuli and Terminus are working together. And yes, all Bodhisattvas work together towards the same goal of purifying everyone, but what if I told you that Mahastama Prapta and Avalokiteshvara, Guanyin, and Jinggangsho work for the same Buddha, directly under the same Buddha. They are both Amitabha's attendants, Amitofo's attendants, the Buddha that healed Guanyin after they split. The parallels are undeniable, and we can take two things from this. One, the Aeons are currently working together, just like I said, and two, there is something above the Aeons. Because if Terminus and Fuli are bodhisattvas, what's a Buddha? Where are they? Are they the source of all imaginary energy? Can we even comprehend what they do? Are they multiversal? Probably. Long and Aha have already reached other dimensions and have followers in other universes, but what could possibly be higher than an Aeon? Is there something out there that can defeat the void consuming the imaginary tree? The implications are limitless. Just Dahlia saying that Terminus is a 1,000-armed being reveals everything behind more than one Aeon's inspiration, because now we know what Fuli is and what Terminus is. They are, in fact, working together because they serve the same superior. This is insane, and I told you this was an iceberg. I don't think we are supposed to know any of this yet, but what I do know is that we are already facing threats like what we saw in Euphorius. Things are going to get universal very quickly. Iron Tomb was a universal threat, and this is only the 4th world we've ever been to. We are only 2 years into this game's lifespan, and we are already facing universe level threats. And that means Nanook might not be the final boss we thought he was. If there is something above the Aeons, that may mean that something even more dangerous is higher than destruction itself. Star Rail has been teasing it a lot, especially through their collaborations spanning through different universes, but this more than anything is a heavy implication that we are going full-on multiversal in the distant future. Who really knows? Terminus does. They've already been there, but they tribios themselves into cats that also have a meaning in Buddhism, but nothing specific, unfortunately, that I could find. Leave a comment if you have any leads on that, because I'm going to have to leave it there before my head explodes just like Guan Yu. Because this is Honkai Star Rail's Aeon of Finality Explained. I don't normally go into mythology and religions and things like that. That's more Ashikai's turf, but for this one, I had a Chef Skinner moment, and one breakthrough led to another, and before I knew it, I was too deep and too many things were lining up. This video turned out to be more of an offshoot of Aeons Explained, but you know, by the time we get to T, we might know a lot more. And if you like this video, you're probably gonna like that series a lot, because I do basically what happened here in those videos every single time. And next week we got to talk about Stellarons, and that will be my final video of 2025, which is crazy to think about. This year has been insane, and you guys have truly made it special for me. So you know that I will continue to do my best to give you guys everything I got. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.